ऐसे खूंखार अपराधियों के बीच में रखा है जहां उनकी हत्या भी हो सकती है। तो मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं कि प्रधानमंत्री जी की मंशा क्या है, क्योंकि तिहाड़ जेल में तो कैदियों की हत्या भी हो चुकी है। आप क्या मनीष सिसोदिया को भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार मरवाना चाहती है?
ये आपकी मानसिकता दिखाता है कि आप किस तरह की सोच रखते हैं। हमारे डिफरेंस ओपिनियन हो सकते हैं, लेकिन इस तरह की बातें सोच रहे तो आप लोग भी सोच सकते हो, हम नहीं सोच सकते। सबको मालूम है कि तिहाड़ जेल जो है वो दिल्ली सरकार के तहत आता है, और हम सब ने देखा कि किस प्रकार से अभी अभी रिजाइन हुए मंत्री सत्येंद्र जैन जिस प्रकार से रिजॉर्ट की तरह वहां मजे ले रहे हैं, सबने देखा तिहाड़ जेल के अंदर मजे ले रहे हैं।
As the Aam Aadmi Party battles Liquorgate charges, the heat, however, is only escalating. Bureau Report, India Today.
I had a dream when I was 8 years old. I wanted to touch the stars. And I thought, what is the easiest way to touch the stars? Let's become a pilot. When I was in 11th grade, as a pilot, I had to take science. One of my teachers at that point in time, she called me, Zoya, why have you taken science? I'm like, because I want to become a pilot. She says, have you seen like your, family background? Have you seen where you come from? Do you think you can become a pilot? Your family will not be able to make you, become a pilot. मैं बोलती हूँ, अगर मुश्किलें कम हो तो फिर मज़ा थोड़ा कम आता है ना। लड़की है, अपना बड़े होके अच्छा सा लड़का मिल जाए और उसके बाद अपना घर संभालेगी, right? Those are the exact dreams that my mom had for me. That 8-year-old Zoya who pushed me when I was 8 years old, when everything seemed to go against me, still stays inside of me, and she continues to push me every single day to follow her dreams, to do more. I never wanted to play with dolls. They were not my thing. I wanted a telescope. So my mom was always scandalized by me from the very beginning. She thought that there is something deeply wrong with this one child that she has, that she wants to have a telescope and not kitchen set and Barbie dolls. But that's what I wanted. And when I broke the news to her that I want to become a pilot, she said that, oh my God, भगवान ने हमारे को एक ही बच्ची दी है और वो भी इतनी अलग सी. So she started crying.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking from the flight deck once again. Welcome on board. There's history creating maiden flight from San Francisco to Bengaluru.
For the first time in the aviation history, there was a crew, a team of all women who were flying over the North Pole on one of the world's longest, Air India's longest flight, between two Silicon Valleys, San Francisco to Bengaluru, which turned a whole new leaf in the world's aviation industry. The whole world was excited, and Air India was excited, India was excited, and we were beyond thrilled. Yeah.
The air over the southern city of Kochi has been ruined in the last 5 days by a fire at Kochi's Brahmapuram waste treatment plant. It's been raging for nearly 10 days now. Indian Navy and its pilots, along with state officials, have been engaged in a huge firefighting operation on land and from the air. With toxic fumes shrouding Kochi, residents have been advised to stay indoors and wear masks, while senior citizens have complained of suffocation and dizziness. Take a look at just how bad it is.
The Queen of Arabian Sea under a thick blanket of smoke. Kochi is living its worst nightmare. A fire that started at the Brahmapuram solid waste management site on the 2nd March is still raging. The Indian Navy and the state administration are engaging in firefighting operations.
You can see in the visuals the smoke that's coming out of the fire is covering the entire area. It's not just here. You can see in the end corner where it's completely filled with smoke. The fire has not been fully doused. What we are understanding is the fire is right now under control, but you can see patches of fire here and there, and it will take another week, is what we are understanding, to completely douse the fire.
The Navy has deployed several helicopters to douse the fire that has made the city air toxic. People in Kochi and its suburbs are angry at the failure to control the fire.
ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ എല്ലാവർക്കും ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടാണ്. എല്ലാ പിള്ളേർക്കും വയസ്സായവർക്കും എല്ലാവർക്കും ശ്വാസം മുട്ടും ചുമയും. ഞങ്ങൾക്കൊന്നും ഇവിടെ നിൽക്കാൻ വയ്യ ഈ സമയത്ത് ഇത്തിരി കുറവുണ്ട്. വൈകുന്നേരം 3 മണിയൊക്കെ ആകുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും പിന്നെയും തുടങ്ങും. കാറ്റ് വരുന്ന അനുസരിച്ചിട്ട് പുക കൂടിക്കൊണ്ടുവരും. രാത്രിയൊന്നും ഫാനൊന്നും ഇടാൻ പാടില്ല. വീട്ടിൽ എല്ലാ പുക അകത്തോട്ട് കയറി വരും. അപ്പോൾ 2 ദിവസമായിട്ട് പിള്ളേരൊന്നും ഉറങ്ങിയിട്ടില്ല.
Schools and shopping malls in the region were shut for 2 days. Students who have exams are stuck.
ഉച്ച കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടാണ് പുക കൂടുതലും വന്നെ. അതുകൊണ്ട് അങ്ങനെ പഠിക്കാനൊന്നും പറ്റാറില്ല. പിന്നെ രാത്രിയൊക്കെ ഭയങ്കര പുകയായിരിക്കും. പുറത്തേക്ക് ഇറങ്ങാൻ പറ്റൂല. അകത്ത് തന്നെ ഇരിക്കണേ ഫുൾ ടൈം. പുറത്തേക്കൊന്നും അങ്ങനെ ഇറങ്ങാറില്ല. പഠിക്കാനൊന്നും പറ്റില്ല. ശ്വാസം മുട്ടലും തലവേദനയൊക്കെ. പിന്നെ അങ്ങനെ പഠിക്കാനൊന്നും പറ്റാറില്ല. ഈ പുകയൊക്കെ ആയിരുന്നു.
Elderly citizens are complaining of suffocation and dizziness.
ചുമ ഉണ്ട് ശരിക്കും, പിന്നെ കഫക്കെട്ടുണ്ട്. അല്ലാണ്ട് ഇപ്പം ഒന്നും വേറെ പറയത്തൊക്കെ ഒന്നുമില്ല. പിന്നെ ഈ പുക വരുന്ന സമയത്താണെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് ശ്വസിക്കാനൊക്കെ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുണ്ടാവും. ഭയങ്കര സ്മെല്ലുമായിരിക്കും. വാതിലൊക്കെ അടച്ചിട്ടിരുന്നാൽ തന്നെ ഒരു ഇതുമില്ല. പിന്നെയും പരിക്കകത്തൊക്കെ മുറിക്കകത്തൊക്കെ ഇതിൻ്റെ പുകയൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാവും, സ്മെല്ലുണ്ടാവും.
Heads are rolling. Ernakulam District Collector Renu Raj has been shunted out. NSK Umesh has taken charge as the new collector.
My predecessor, Dr. Renu Raj, has done some fantastic work in the last 10 days in terms of controlling the fire and working on long-term solutions. So there's a fantastic action plan already in place. I think it's my duty to ensure that the action plan is implemented. I think it's a tough situation, but I think we will be able to manage it.
The Kerala High Court racked district officials for waste mismanagement. In a scathing observation, the court said Kochi has become a gas chamber. A week after fire started at Brahmapuram, the people of Kochi don't know when the nightmare will be over. With Shibimol in Kochi, Bureau Report, India Today.
For more than a week now, a huge fire has been raging at a massive dump yard on the outskirts of the city of Kochi in Kerala. These are images that have gone viral all across the world because the smoke and the smog and the pollution that has resulted from it has become a global story. Well, amidst this crisis in southern India, there are, of course, heroes. And among them are Indian Navy pilots who've been flying tirelessly in their helicopters to put out, or at least try to put out, this huge and spreading fire on the outskirts of the city of Kochi. Joining me live now from Kochi are two of those Indian Navy pilots who've been flying these missions. They're risky missions, but these are some of the country's most qualified aviators, constantly called in for all manner of humanitarian relief and operations of a kind where civilian assistance is the order of the day. From cyclones to dumpyard fires, they are the port of call. Our great honor and privilege to welcome onto our coverage today Commander Sunil. He's a Sea King pilot, and Commander Antaryami, who flies the indigenous ALH Dhruv helicopter. Both of these pilots you see here on your screen, viewer, have been flying firefighting operations across that huge dumpyard blaze on the outskirts of Kochi. Welcome to you both, gentlemen. Thank you very much for being with me. Commander Sunil, to you first. As a pilot, you're always prepared for all kinds of things, all kinds of eventualities. You're practically sleeping with one eye open, I imagine, because you can be called for any kind of mission. Tell us about this one, a huge dumpyard fire on the outskirts of Kochi. How did it begin? How did you guys go off to fight this fire?
Yeah, good afternoon, Shiv. The moment we got an information regarding the fire, the Navy sprung into action. We had a control room which was set up at the command. And thereafter, once we got our orders, we went into the air straight away and undertook an air recce of the area to understand the nuances of these operations. The recce mainly was to see what is the expanse of the fire, the wind, prevailing wind conditions, the bird activity, any obstructions nearby, and most importantly for the firefighting, we required a water source. Luckily, once we undertook the air recce, we found a water source very near to the scene of fire, which was around 1 to 2 nautical miles. And however, at the same time, we had the various challenges as there was intense bird activity near the being at a dump yard. It was very natural. Thereafter, we had high tension cables which were running along the dump yard. And they were just next to the dump yard, which meant we have to initially fly high, thereafter gradually come down before we disperse the water onto the fire. Additionally, the main challenge was the heavy smoke in the area, because we had to keep ourselves safe, the aircraft safe, and the crew, and still carry out the missions. So once we landed back and we gave our brief to the control room, and mission briefing for the same was undertaken. The aircraft were in a different role. The team on the ground basically worked overnight and to get the aircraft ready for this role, for this firefighting role. And we were ready with the first flight.
Incredible. Commander Antaryami, flying through that smoke, birds everywhere, electricity cables nearby. I mean, this is every aviator's nightmare. I mean, you are trained to, fly in clear visibility, away from any obstacles. And here you're ordered to fly, into a really, really risky airspace. What was that like, flying in that?
It was challenging, Shiv, to say the least, because as you said, you're trained for a different environment. However, this was the real mission, wherein the challenges were, as brought out by Commander Sunil also, you heard them, flying through thick smoke, close to the high tension wire, in the vicinity of a lot of birds, was actually a challenging task. And but the job was very well specified to us, and the entire command was at it, and the aim was clear. So we found out methodology, how to go about it, and we could undertake quite a few drops, which were, in assistance to the local agencies who were already fighting the fire. So overall, it was a challenging task. However, with a lot of people involved, I'll say the ground crew, the station, when we were preparing, everybody put in their best efforts together, and then the outcome was what you saw on the subsequent days.
Absolutely, because Commander Sunil, the margin of safety, I assume, in such a situation, shrinks considerably, because you're surrounded by things that could affect your aircraft. How do pilots actually assess this, while there? Because I'm sure you couldn't have known about all the threats until you're actually in the threat.
Yeah, as I told you, the previous day once we were undertaking the air recce, at that point itself we undertook, basically we did a flying over the high tension cables, and the smoke, because the smoke was still, at that point of time it was very heavy. So we, during the recce itself, because we knew once the lalde, which is the equipment from where the water is being dispersed, we knew what was the, it actually hangs below the aircraft. We know the exact length, and we know at the height at which we are flying. So we have assessed that, and thereafter, and drawn a general route through which will be clear of the smoke, clear of the high tension cables, keeping the risk as minimum as possible, and of course with taking the water source from picking up the water, so that the risk is as minimum. But as you said, some risk cannot be can be just minimized. It cannot be made to zero. So that's what we have been trained for, and that helped us.
Did some of that smoke, Commander Antaryami, did some of that smoke sort of find its way into the cockpit where you guys were flying?
Yes, while we were going for the final approaches for carrying out the drop of water over the fire, the aircraft was flying under the smoke, and whatever precautions we could take to minimize the ingress of smoke, but there was some smoke which is coming in the cockpit every time we were making the run for the drop over the site.
Is that a risk, Commander Antaryami? Smoke coming into the cockpit, when you're flying in such situations?
We were very briefly in smoke. However, I'll say the visibility wise, it was dropping as we were flying over the site when the smoke was there. And I'm sure you must have seen the photographs where the aircraft was under the engulfing smoke from the site. However, we were not breathing the entire thing throughout because it was moving in a particular direction.
Yeah.
And after we dropped the water over the site, we were moving towards the dam to fill up the water again, which was, I'll say, luckily clear of the smoke site. And the visibility was good, and the smoke presence was quite minimal over there.
Because the helicopters, final question to you, Commander Sunil, the helicopters have been flying non-stop on these missions. How close are we to putting that fire out? Because it's been raging for so many days.
See, as brought out by Commander Antaryami, now the fire on the periphery has been being fought by the local administration, the local fire tenders.
Yeah.
The naval fire tenders have also been put into action. But the main challenge was the fire which was raging at the center of the dump yard. Now that was not very accessible to the ground firefighters. That's where the helicopters came in. And we had put our ground team also in the basically on the spot, and they were giving us inputs regarding the best, basically the spot where they required for the firefight, basically the water to be dispersed. So we fought the fire where nobody accessed it, and our action was one of the basically once the firefighting of the basically fire triangle, what we call, whether to there is a burning material, there is an oxygen supply which requires, and there the third thing is an high temperature. Now the other two could not have been controlled because the burning material was quite high, oxygen obviously we cannot control. So our operation was mainly to drop water and get down the temperature.
Right.
And I think we have done a very decent job in getting down the fire, and basically the spread of the fire has been controlled.
I can imagine how difficult this entire task has been, and as always for the military, the task is never over. You'll be flying more missions here, and you won't have time for rest because the next mission will come along. That's the nature of the job. But the country thanks you. I'm sure Kochi thanks pilots like yourselves, and a big salute to the Indian Navy and its participation in this task on the outskirts of Kochi. Thank you very much, Commander Sunil and Commander Antaryami, for your time, giving us a little bit of an insight, letting us proverbially into that cockpit just to experience what such a difficult mission is really like. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Time for a very quick break now, but on the other side, the countdown has begun for the most polarizing election of 2023. PCM versus Love Jihad, Tipu versus Savarkar, Hindu versus Hindutva. The stage is set. for State of War Karnataka. Akshita Nandagopal decodes this high-stakes battle in a never-before format. That's coming up at 6 p.m. Don't miss it.
Age is just a number. This line fits perfectly for Dharam Chand from Haryana. He is 86 but is still running, jumping and winning medals. His secret?
मैं बच्चों को सबको यही प्रेरणा देता हूँ कि आप मेरी तरह ग्राउंड के साथ जुड़े और सब ऐबों से मुक्त होकर आप अपनी सेहत को, अपने शरीर को ठीक रखें। सन 68 से लेकर आज तक मैं कंटिन्यूड रेगुलर पोजीशन लेता आ रहा हूँ।
The 4th National Masters Athletics Championship, which recently took place in Kurukshetra, saw more than 2,400 participants from 22 states. 72-year-old Mahavir Singh is one of them.
मैं यही संदेश देना चाहता हूँ भाई नशे से दूर रहें और